So it seems as if there's two steps or phases in this message of non-duality. And we address each phase each time, or sections of each phase. And the phases are, it seems as in, we learn about the message, we gain trust in it, and however form works for us, it could be videos or retreats or meetings like this or books or whatever it is, we gain enough trust in the message to then, in phase 2, we turn within to know the message directly as ourself. If anywhere a part of the path, you're somewhere in these two phases. What is amazing about non-duality is that it is experiential. It is about you experiencing peace. And anything that doesn't bring you peace is false. It's a false truth, and we get rid of it. So it's learning what is true and what's false, so that we can come back to the peace and truth of ourself. And because this message is direct, and it is meant for it to be experienced, it's meant for it to be moved from a concept. We could say the mind is phase 1 and the heart is phase 2. So we're moving from concepts, from an intellectual understanding, into a direct experience of what we were taught up here. So up here, even when we talk about peace and contentment and wholeness, that's still a concept. The goal is to move into the experience of what those mean as a direct experience of them. And so by moving into phase 2, which we could say is self-enquiry, we've turned our attention outwards, and we're willing to see if this is the truth. We've drummed up enough courage in phase 1 to see if this is the truth. And we're starting to turn within, and we hit roadblocks. We hit these things that want to keep pushing us out. And this is what we're going to talk about today. And I'm going to try to get really specific so that I can show you all of these different ways in which the egoic mind is pushing us out and keeping us away from what we're after. And when we understand our own individual ways in which we're pushed out, which we could say is our own individual conditioning that's been created by society and our parents and coaches and teachers and ourselves, we've created a lot of these ourselves. Once we understand all these ways that we're pushed out, now we've got something we can grab onto and understand how to diffuse those. Because once you diffuse all of these outward energies and efforts, that's peace, that's realization. So it's been a few weeks since I've given like a presentation. So I've created a few slides to help us visualize what this means. I know that some of us learn in a visual form. I know I do. There's something within me that wants to make this visual, and this is where I spend most of my work or time in this work, is trying to bring it visual so that when you do turn within to start to investigate yourself, you might say, oh, I'm understanding the diagrams that Scott's coming up with. So I'm going to share my screen here. Let me see if how big I can get that. Is this relatively big? Is this something sizable that you can read that? Okay. So we have these internal energies and urges that want to push us away from ourself and into the world. And these are known as our vasanas. Vasana is the Sanskrit word for the English term of our will. And our vasanas are our latent efforts. So latent means that they are sitting in waiting to strike out in the world depending on what situation and our environment is. So depending on what's going on, our energies and efforts will arise to address our surroundings. So our vasanas are our latent efforts, inclinations, tendencies, and urges to experience and or react to something in one of two ways, either outward or inward. And we're going to go over these two types of vasanas. And the first one is known as our Vishaya vasanas. And our Vishaya vasanas are the multitude of impulses that impel us to be physically or mentally pushed outward. These are what take us away from ourselves. And there's oodles of them. There's hundreds, thousands, who knows? I mean, there's many, as we all know, because we'll soon find out that any movement that's away from ourselves is a vasana, is a vishaya, is an outward pushing. Outward pushing forces within us that dictate how we express, react, and respond to the surroundings we encounter in day-to-day life. So, and we all react differently to the same thing. So, if I'm, say, crossing a crosswalk and a car runs a red light and almost hits me, I might get upset. But that doesn't mean that somebody else is going to get upset. Or if I encounter somebody at work that gives me an issue, somebody else might go, what's the big deal? Right? So we all have our own ways of responding to the current circumstances depending on these latent tendencies to move us. Vishaya impulses are uncontrollable to a person because they are determined and expressed prior to the intellect, mind, and body. Super important. They lay prior to any of the tools we have to work with. The tools of our mind, our body, our perceptions, even our intellect. They lay prior to that. In fact, they give rise to the intellect, mind, and body. And we can't control them. The Sattvasana is the singular inward projecting impulse to attend to nothing but ourself. This is the inward projecting effort that has brought you to this message. There's an inherent calling within that knows something in this non-dual, Advaita message, the truth. There's something here, and that is the pulling within that you're experiencing. Since the Sattvasana contains no trace of ego, It is therefore a divine inward pulling. Therefore, the Sattvasana is our preordained love, desire, or longing to self-abide. Again, it's this inherent longing to know peace. I was in a one-on-one call yesterday, and they said, I was at the gym, and I just kept thinking about, gosh, I just want to go home and practice self-enquiry. I had this longing. And I'm like, that's it. What is that? What are you experiencing? That's what we're after here. That longing to come home to ourself. By the way, Sat is Sanskrit for existence or being. So this is our being inward drawing. So I'm sure we've heard of like Sat Chit Ananda. So being, consciousness, bliss. That's what the Sat is. The Sattvasana is the only force that can eliminate Vishaya vasanas, for it is the only inward effort that can draw our attention prior to the body, mind, and intellect, and vasanas, to dissolve them at their root. So the Sattvasana, you could say, lies before the Vishaya. This is how we get before the outward impulses that drive a lot of us crazy. This is how we get before those and dispel those. We diffuse these outward energies by drawing ourselves back to our being. Being gets before the vasanas and dissolves them from the inside out. So, any of us who have practiced any sort of meditation, it doesn't even have to be self-inquiry, but you sit in silence and what happens? The mind fires up, says, let's get the heck out of here, or it goes into some monkey mind, or the body's like urging you, let's go, we can have way more fun somewhere else. These are all of your vasanas pushing you away due to that experience. Because when we sit in self-inquiry or any sort of meditation, man, we are in this environment to really experience these directly. Right? This is why I say self-inquiry, it gives you the most conducive environment to really see what's going on. What is it that's pulling me away from myself and creating the suffering? So I'm going to try and put this into like a visual diagram here. Might help some of us understand this. So self, there's self, I am peace. That's who we are. That's what we're trying to get back to. But what happens is that a part of the ego is these vasanas. It pushes us into the world, to these mental and physical urges. And what I'm going to show here are these based in arrows. These arrows are representing us being moved away from ourself. And some of these arrows are bigger, some are smaller, wider, different colors, and all they're trying to represent is maybe the magnitude of some of these, where, you know, your thoughts might not draw you away from yourself as much as my thoughts draw me away from myself. So these arrows might be represented as bigger relative to me and smaller to you. I think you can kind of see how that's working. But thoughts, images, and ideas, right? We're drawn into our mind. We're drawn into these visions and images and memories. We're just constantly being pulled away from our mind. Sensations, emotions, and feelings. This is all related to the body. We could be agitated here, right? Trying to be at peace, and all the darn body's just like, you know, being frustrated and it's got these angst feelings going on with it. We could have psychological disorders. The mind has PTSD, or it has depression or anxiety, and these identities, we could say they are, pull us away from the peace of ourself. Physiological syndromes that come along with this. The mind, when it's at dis-ease, can then make its way into the body, where the body feels it's experiencing like throbbing and soreness and tiredness and pressures and stresses. Again, pulling ourselves away from ourselves. Any of our attachments or aversions. We want to move towards things that drive pleasure, and we want to stay away from things that give us any sort of pain or suffering. Both of these attachments and aversions are equivalent. It's actually the aversions that actually create more resistance in our life than the attachments, because we just want to stay away from things, and the moment we try to stay away from something, we're resisting what is. Relentless rumination of the mind, the monkey mind, internal discontentness, restlessness, and agitation. So we can see that this is a general umbrella of everything that can move us away from ourselves. We're going to get into specifics here in a minute. And then there's the sattvasana. The sattvasana is the longing to turn within. It's the longing to be at peace, because of all of these outward pushing arrows are taking us away from that peace. And the more that we attend to the sattvasana, or allow the sattvasana to bring us home to the peace and love of ourself, what happens is these arrows, these outward pushing vasanas, start to die down. They start to become diffused and lose their energetic suffering powers, you could say. And the sattvasana gets bigger. This is the example of when I say this. I think you've seen me do this before. The ego's out here in the world trying to find this. And what happens is when the ego starts to turn within to see what happens, this actually starts to grow. This is the same thing as the arrows shrinking while the sattvasana arrow grows, until all there is the sattvasana is dropped into self. So if I back up here, this is an individual. This is somebody that has all of these vasanas and identities and such. But what happens when the sattvasana drops completely into self, into the green, the sattvasana, or the experience of yourself, just happens within self. This is what gives the lasting peace. This is what we're after here. So what I'm trying to describe is like, okay, we're getting a hold and starting to understand what drives me away from the contentment I'm after. And so now the next question is, well, how do I do this? How do I diffuse these Vishaya vasanas to come home to be in this diagram here, where I just sit within myself, being myself as myself, where I don't have to leave myself anymore. I've lost, or I've understood that I don't leave myself to grab something out in this world to bring it back to be at peace with myself. I'm just at peace with myself by being myself. And that's what this diagram is supposed to show. There are no two Sats. There's only one Sat. It's trying to be itself, and it's no different from self or I am or peace. These are all one thing, the oneness of ourself. So this is where the Brahma astrams come in. Brahma is the Sanskrit word for divine or God. You could put any word around this. It could be, unified field or spirit or whatever you want to put there. And the astrams are weapons. So the Brahma astrams are the weapons of the gods. So Brahma astrams are the most powerful Vishaya Vasana destructive devices in totality. They are the divine weapons of the gods. For when the Brahma astrams are applied, their forces are so strong that the Vishayas collapse and are led back to dissolve in their source, which is self, in which then one experiences the self directly and inherently. Okay, so what's happened up to now is we've located the problem, the issue. Something is pulling me into this world. They're known as our Vishaya Vasanas. How do I diffuse those? With the Brahma astrams. What are the Brahma astrams? They are questions we ask ourselves. And there's two primary questions. There's other ones, but these are the two core. I'll go over the other ones here with you, but these are the two core ones. Who is this I that? And we fill in the blank. This is specific to each individual arising vasana. So as you're sitting in silence, and this can happen out in the world in the day-to-day life as well. If you're agitated whatsoever by anything, or anything is moving you away from your peace, you can always ask yourself, who is this I that's agitated? Who is this I that's restless? Who is this I that's depressed? You are honing in on the specific vasanas that create your suffering. And when you do this, you can pick each one up individually. And in that, these questions, they diffuse those outward efforts by the ego returning home to its source to experience its peace. So there's a couple things going on there. As the ego is disidentifying with this certain vasana, it's realizing its peace. And the more you pick these up, and the more you draw these vasanas back, they lose their punch. And you will experience this in your day-to-day life. If somebody cuts you off at the traffic light and it used to piss you off, the next time that happens, you'll be like, and then maybe the next time it happens again, you're like, yeah, I get it. And you just move on. The second one, who am I? This is a more general. Is to be applied when you know that you have lost self-abidance, but you're not sure why specifically the loss of attentiveness has occurred. There's just sometimes, especially in self-enquiry, I just realized that I've lost self-attentiveness. I'm not quite sure why. This is when the who am I. So who am I, as in the first question, who is this I? It is the who is the ego, and the I is the egoic I. So it's the ego asking itself, who is it, or who is this I that's experiencing this certain vasana? Okay, so it's the ego that's returning to itself. It's obeying itself. And it turns home to find out who it actually is. And that is when it, that's the experience of peace. That's how you know that that the question's been answered. It's that you experience relief, peace, contentment. Another question, where do I exist from? Is pretty powerful. You can come up with your own questions that are specific to you, that help you return home to yourself. I would think that one of the most powerful ones is asking yourself, do I exist? And the answer is absolutely. That's the one thing that I know. Okay, where did you go to find the answer of yes, I exist? The place that delivered the yes is the place you're seeking. So you could turn your attention to that. Self-enquiry is about learning what this all means. And not conceptually, but inherently and directly. Because we all know that we're agitated by something that's pulling us away. We all know that. How do we diffuse those? This is it. This is the most powerful knowledge you could ever come up against, to be acquainted with, because you need to see this for yourself, but it actually works. Okay, so let's go over like some specific ones so we can kind of draw all these out to try to, I mean, I have like, I don't know, maybe 15 of them here, but there's 1,000 of them. But we can start to just get acquainted with what this means. So in the first column, these are going to be our Vishayas. And these are in addition to the thinker, the doer, the knower, the efforter, the trier. That's the ego at the core, right? It's the doer. It does everything. It thinks it's the thinker and the knower and the efforter of everything. But who is this I that fears? Who's the fearer? Every one of these words I have ER at the end because it's the doer. The efforter is the ERer in everything. So who's the fearer here? So you would knock this down if you're in self-enquiry or out in your day-to-day world. Who is this I that fears? Who is this I that fears? The ego's going to, I don't know, let me go see. And the sense of fear will die down. Now, it doesn't mean it won't rise back up. It probably will, because fear is a very strong vasana. But you'll see over time, the more you address this fear in this certain circumstance, the next time this circumstance happens, the fear won't be as strong. Bored. Who's the boarder? I'm bored in self-enquiry. Let's go do something that's much more fun and exciting than this. Something where we get things done. So this is one of the main efforts that the ego attempts, especially the first parts of self-enquiry. It's bored. There's nothing here. There's no value. So who is this I that's bored? The anxietier. Who is this I that's anxious? Oh, the doubter. This can't be the truth. There's no way turning within can solve all of my problems. But who is this I that doubts? Believer. Who is this I that believes? Oh, the regretter. Yeah, who's the one that regrets some of the decisions it's made in its life? Who regrets the one that, who's the one that regrets treating people in a certain way? Who is this I that regrets? Betrayer. I put this on there because this was something that happened to me this week. I had a situation where somebody, I felt this angst of betrayal, and I haven't felt that in a long time. I don't even know if I've ever felt it before. But it was somebody that was relatively close, and I felt like I was betrayed by him, and it rose within me. So here's a certain circumstance that I rarely encounter, but I did, and this urge to move me away arose, known as betrayal. And so you're asking, who is this I that's betrayed? But in this is where when you feel as you're being pulled away, these are gifts. These are these risings that you can grab onto and try to analyze and pinpoint and get the surgical scalpel out to see what is the one word, what is it that's really upsetting me. And in this case, I came up with betrayal. I was betrayed. Okay, now I've got something. And what do I do with that? I apply the Brahma astrams to that. See how that works? Every movement away from yourself is a gift that shows you your vasanas that need to be diffused. The gratituder. So even a person that is experiencing, you could say, good things, we need to be careful with this as well, because they could be another identity. And so this is where I've said this before, that in self-enquiry and self-surrender, you have to be willing to let everything go. Everything. Even that you're a belief that you're a good person, that I'm kind, because those could just be other identities, and the divine will keep what's supposed to be here and what needs to go. Because somebody who's kind, that could just be another concept. We want to move that kindness into our heart, to have it just be who we are. In some of these, we start to see where these going. Here's one that comes up from time to time. I'm not good at self-enquiry. Yeah, it's foreign. It's counterintuitive. Let it be somebody who's not good at this right now. But this is how it works. You got to get in there and see. You got to see these things in action. Yeah, who is this I that's not good at self-enquiry? Again, anything that moves you away, that's what I'm trying to show here. Anything that moves you away, that doesn't get it, or I'll never get this, I'm not good enough. Who is this I that doesn't get it? Who is this I that's not good enough? Who is this I that's not worthy enough to get this? Can't figure it out, or I can't figure this out. I mean, and that's one of the paradoxes here. You're right. You'll never be able to figure it out. Who is this I that can't figure it out? Valuelesser. This self-enquiry is just, it's not, there's no value here. How can this lead to the truth? Judger. It's one of all of our favorite pastimes. Confused. Who is this one that's confused about all of it? Angry. Frustrated. Fantasizer. Who is the one that just dreams of it being better, and or winning the lottery and being able to travel the world, all of these fantasizes that takes us away from the truth. Here's one, the sitter. So you're sitting in self-enquiry. You're like, who is the I that's sitting here? Because it's an individual that thinks it's sitting. Guilter, seeker. Who's the one that seeks the peace? Who is the one here right now that wants things to be different? The worrier, skepticer. Oh, that's a big one. And then this one is the voider. So this is once you've settled in, it's the one that like gets the void, understands the emptiness. You just have to be really careful that there still isn't somebody that knows the void or knows the emptiness or knows the fullness or knows anything. If there's any mental knowing of anything, that means there's still an individual that knows it. You just need to step back one more step into the awareness that's aware of the void, that's aware of the wholeness, that's aware of it. Because then it becomes synonymous. Awareness is wholeness, awareness is fullness, awareness is contentment. So again, what I'm trying to show you here is like the slippery sliding of what the ego will morph into via all of the vasanas that we have just sitting, waiting to pounce, and to pick each one of those up individually and diffuse those. And when you do that, you will experience more and more peace in your life. This is the practicality of this message. It is meant for you to literally experience more and more fullness and fulfillment in your life. This is what the sages say. If you're willing to drop within, you'll experience the concepts that you're after. We're after all of these from our mind. We think we know what they are, but that doesn't have any value. Our goal is to experience what peace really means.